Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Fox, and welcome to this edition of Inside the Investigation. We are looking at the Colonial Parkway murders, 8 total. We are looking today at the second one. Robin Edwards and David Knobling killed at Ragged Island. Here's some background on the Colonial Parkway murders. The Colonial Parkway murders, 9 murders between 1986 and 1989. 1986, Rebecca Andowski and Kathy Thomas found murdered on October 12th after being last seen on October 9th, found on the Colonial Parkway. 1987, David Knobling and Robin Edwards found murdered on September 23rd after being last seen on September 19th. Ragged Island Wildlife Management Area. 1988, Cassandra Haley and Keith Call disappeared after a university party. Their car was found on the Colonial Parkway about a mile from the 1986 murders. Their bodies never found. In 1989, Anna Marie Phelps and Daniel Lauer disappeared, and their bodies were later found near a rest stop on I-64. And their bodies found off an old logging road. Also in 1989, Teresa Lynn Howe found murdered hours after leaving a club. We only know about Howe in the end because of her DNA connection to a suspect, Alan Wilmer Sr., identified in 2024 through DNA evidence and also linking him to the 1987 Ragged Island murders of Robin Edwards and David Knobling. I came to Wavy TV 10 in 1986, and sure enough, that's when I started covering the Colonial Parkway murders. Joining me is Janette Santiago, a lovely lady, and she is the older sister of Robin Edwards, and I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We've traveled many miles together.
Yes.
It's been a big story, and I appreciate your being here. Take me inside the investigation when all of this started back in 1987, September.
Wow.
What was going on?
Sorry.
A lot of investigators showing up.
Yeah, a lot of police officers, investigators. I can recall them coming to my mom's house. And then at one point they did come and interview me at my house. They took a DNA sample from me, my sister, and my mom.
What were they asking you?
Just where she liked to hang out, what kind of friends she was around. Really nothing too deep at that point.
Obviously concerned.
Yes.
And
definitely.
It was always dire from the start.
Yes.
There was no explanation on where Robin could have been.
No.
You knew that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about Robin. Tell me about Robin. You always said, when we were doing the investigation, I was doing the interviews, they always said she was beyond her years. She was only 14 years old. I'm going to show everyone some pictures of Robin Edwards, and tell me about who Robin was.
She was spunky and full of life, not afraid of anything.
And what we're showing people is the scene at Ragged Island when it was all playing out. That's where the pickup truck was found. I'm out doing a story. I've done so many stories. Keep telling me about who Robin was.
She, like I said, she was not afraid of anything. So I can remember her just leaving the house and walking with pride down the street. She was beyond her years. She liked to hang out with.
This was January 18th, 2024. Okay, that's when I was interviewing you. You said she was a fire. Nothing scared her. Fearless, full of energy.
Yes, most definitely.
Tell me about that.
Well, I can remember one time she decided that she wanted to go see a boy, and she rode her bicycle from my parents' house to the McDonald's over on Route 17. That was a good 20-minute drive. So I can't imagine how long it took her on her bicycle.
And she's 14 at the time. So a
She
little
was,
bit. Were you concerned about her? Most 14-year-olds or 13 or 12-year-olds would not be doing that.
no.
What were your
She
concerns about her?
she called me and said, you know, can you come get me? Please don't tell mom. Please don't tell mom. And you know, I was already a mom at that time, so I had to tell mom.
Did you relay any of this to the investigators that came
Yes.
in? In what context?
Just that this was not her first time kind of disappearing. That it was really not shocking.
That she had run away before?
Yes. Yep. She was
Where-
gone for like
Why did
2
she run
weeks.
away? Why was she running away?
Because her other friend that she left with liked this guy and her parents didn't want her dating him, so they ran away together.
Now, that the person you're referring to is not David Knobling.
No.
Okay, so he was 20 at the time, she was 14. They had been out earlier, and then they dropped off I get David's brother, and then they went out together, and they were at Ragged Island. Is that the
Yes.
storyline? Did that concern you? He's a lot older, she's
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah. It was concerning, but
Did the investigators ask you about that?
no, not really. No. It was not a big questioning factor then.
She was last seen on September 19th. Do you remember seeing, when was the last time you saw her?
About a week before that, she was at my house.
Real quick, the panic of the day. What was going on in your house when the investigators were there?
That day? Well, they actually came to mom's house. My dad called me and he's like, you need to come over. We were watching TV the day she was found, and we were expecting basically a story on, you know, that she had run away again.
And it would turn into be something much worse than that. Coming up in our next segment, we are going to get more into what was going on in the investigation, how it was unfolding, how they found out that Robin and David were both dead. We'll have that coming up right after this. And welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our discussion with Janette Santiago, who is the older sister of Robin Edwards. The second Colonial Parkway murder, she was killed with David Knobling. And Janette, I asked you a question before about the panic when the law enforcement was there. What was the panic that everyone was feeling when this was going on? I'm sure hands were shaking.
Yeah. They actually didn't come to our house until after we found out that she was deceased.
So there was no communication at your house until after she was found dead.
Yes.
Are you troubled by that?
Yeah.
I mean, when she disappeared and they were missing, they had not come to the house?
They came to the house and took some of Robin's belongings, like her hairbrush and that kind of stuff.
In the period of time when she was missing?
When she was missing.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're clear on that. Now, when did you find out that she was dead?
On the news. We were expecting a show about, you know, Robin, please come home. You know, we thought she was just a runaway still at that time. And then there was a breaking news story in which
It was me.
yeah.
And I always have regret about that. That's how you found out.
Yeah.
But it was a different time. It was 1986. We didn't have cell phones. When we were looking at the video, you saw the guy with the red shirt. I saw him down at a convenience store, and he said, I found some bodies out on the beach. And, you know, we had been out covering this, and we raced back, and then some of the video that we were showing shows that. But it was a different time. There was no cell phone. There was no plan. There was no plan for law enforcement to get in touch with you to inform you of any developments. Was there?
Not that we were aware.
Are you disappointed about that? That there
Yeah.
wasn't some type of, because
Yeah,
there,
we shouldn't have had to find out by the news that she was gone.
I mean, it must have been horrifying, and I regret it. I wish that that's not the way you found out.
Yeah.
When you heard it, what happened? What was going on in the house?
Silence. It was silent.
What was running through your head? All those memories, the pictures of Robin.
It was like we were living somebody else's nightmare. It didn't seem real. It seemed like it wasn't real. It was quiet and taking it all in and shock, real shock.
And then after this happened, then what did law enforcement do then as part of this investigation?
Well, they came out and they came to my mom's house. They let us know that, yes, it's confirmed that it was Robin and David, and how it appears they had died. I do remember at one point, about a week later, a police officer bringing my sister's belongings to the house in a brown paper bag. And my mom literally took it out of his hand, opened the trash can, and stuck it in the trash. She couldn't deal with it. It was too much for her.
When did you first hear something about a possible, well, I guess the frustration over all those years, 87, 88, 89, 90, all the way up until 2024, all the frustration with the investigation and these investigators, a lot of them who were unable to crack this case?
Yeah.
What was that frustration like?
It was disheartening. It was, anytime we would hear from the investigator, it was a sense of false hope at the time. Because, you would think that that was going to be what you were going to be told. And then, it was more of, well, we are looking into this person, or we're looking into another person. We're trying to get DNA from, at the time, I guess there was some possibilities of touch DNA. But nothing really concrete, no solid leads,
Until 2024, and there was a match. And when you were called down to that news conference, did you know? When did you first find out that there was a match, and that was development? And not only that, but it was your case.
Yes.
Robin and David.
Yes. That they came.
Was there joy? As it seems hard to you, that thing. It's like the wrong word, but some type of closure.
Relief. Because we knew that he could no longer hurt anybody, and that we could stop looking over our shoulders.
Looking over the shoulders, there was some finality coming to pass. And coming up in our next segment, we are going to take a look and get some of your memories about that news conference in January of 2024. And I'm also going to ask Janette a very tough question about how they had the suspect early on in the investigation and had given him a polygraph test, and he passed, and they let him go. And it turned out to be the same guy that we'll tell you about coming up in our next segment, Inside the Investigation. Welcome back to Inside the Investigation. Robin Edwards and David Knobling. Janette Santiago is here. This is Robin's older sister. Let me take you back to the news conference when you first found out that there was a DNA match and that Alan Wilmer Sr. was indeed responsible for the death of your sister and David Knobling. When you had a name, when there was this information that came out, where were you then?
Well, actually, the
And I mean, where were you spiritually? I mean, where were you? I mean, was this, I mean, obviously relief.
yes, it was relief. No more looking over our shoulders, no more wondering. Um, Again, it kind of felt surreal, um, like this wasn't real, and maybe we were going to wake up tomorrow and find out that.
So Alan Wilmer Sr. was identified in 2024 through DNA evidence linking him to the 1987 killings. We know that this happened after the death of Teresa Lynn Howe in 1989, and I now kind of include her in the Colonial Parkway murders, to be honest, that they're now 9. And it was a DNA match there that went back, and Robin had been sexually assaulted during, what happened out there at Ragged Island, and they were able to match the DNA with all of this going on.
Yes.
Miracles of science and how
Yes.
it has developed. How, put into perspective for me how you as a family, this victim, felt. You all are victims, but how did you feel with this DNA success?
Excited, glad, but also glad that he died the way he did, because we wouldn't have had that DNA match had he not.
Right. He had passed earlier, and it was an unattended death, and because of that, they had to do a DNA test as a standard operating procedure. They had no idea, but that's why they had the DNA. And,
Yes.
And thank God that happened.
Yes,
as
because
part of the
if he
policy.
Right, had he not died in that manner, we probably wouldn't be here. We probably wouldn't have that DNA match to match him to her murder.
Right. Exactly. Now, it's also true that he was the first big suspect in this case. When that started to unfold, what was your thoughts about that? They had him.
Yeah. Shock.
Anger?
A little bit. Yeah.
Tell me where you are as far as that they came in, they gave him a polygraph. He passed the polygraph. People can pass polygraphs and be lying. Obviously, we know that now. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
What was your message about that
That
as a family?
Yeah, that was disheartening. Sad.
And as you look back on this, what do you wish had happened in that?
Well,
Do you fault the FBI for that?
No, because unfortunately, like you said, anybody can pass a polygraph.
Right.
So, and back then we didn't have as good of technology as we do now. So yes and no.
Well, we're going to, also in our next episode, look into this news conference that happened, what was going on there, how the family got together. I mean, you all were there. They're all lined up and everything. And I will have more on that. We'll be back with a final word right after this. And welcome back, everyone, with Janette Santiago, Robin Edwards' older sister. What stands out from the FBI investigation as you look back on this?
Well, they weren't.
Did it seem organized to you?
No.
Tell me about that.
No, it seemed like everybody was rustling around trying to, at the time, I guess, even cover their own tracks. Felt sloppy sometimes.
And I interviewed former FBI agent in charge, Irv Wells, and he said, and the late Irv Wells, he said it's the biggest regret of his career about how all of this played out. But I mean, this was a really big story, and they had the guy, and they thought that he was not the guy and let him go.
Yeah.
Isn't that, looking back, isn't that the big regret for you and
Yeah.
your family?
Yeah.
In your own words about that.
Well, it's a regret in the fact that he really didn't get punished for his crimes. You know, he skated away, and I'm sure he walked away feeling empowered. So he got to live, as my grandson said this morning, he got to live a normal life.
Until the end. And they got a search warrant, and they found him working on his truck, and
Yeah.
never connected all of those dots and all of these families. Just
Yeah.
has it in a way, has it scarred your life?
Definitely.
Tell me about that and your mom.
Yeah. Well, my kids have suffered as a result, the girls especially, as they became teenagers. You have to be more vigilant and more of a helicopter mom, if you will. They all knew that come teenage years, it was going to get stricter, and I was going to be totally involved in everywhere they were.
Janette, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to have more from Janette coming up in our next episode of Inside the Investigation. Appreciate you so much for being here. And we will delve more into the news conference that took place, and also how the family is remembering Robin. I'll have that part of the story in our next edition of Inside the Investigation. I'm Andy Fox. Thanks for joining us.